Up next, we have a presentation on Dante and the Question of Happiness by Dr. Filippo Naitana.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here, and I also feel that this is a nice segue to the Professor Kaplan's presentation. Speaking of exotic species, we're going to be talking about an Italian poet who died 7 centuries ago. So here we are. Today, by the way, is also International Day of Happiness for those of you who checked, who used Google this morning. So, as the philosopher says at the beginning of the first philosophy, all men by nature desire to know, since knowledge is the ultimate perfection of our soul, in which resides our ultimate happiness. We are all therefore by nature subject to a desire for it. In the Convivio, a single word from the vast lexicon of Greek thought infused into Christian culture seems to carry the entire weight of Dante's architecture of knowledge, eudaimonia, or happiness, which the poet, who studied Latin but not Greek, read beatitudo, or felicitas. In fact, the very premise of Dante's ambitious project is Aristotle's claim that happiness and human desire for knowledge are indissolubly linked. Since many obstacles exist between his readers and the tools needed to pursue happiness, among them the inability to read Latin, Dante invites them to a 14-course banquet of knowledge, written in Italian vernacular, that will grant them a chance to achieve the ultimate perfection. He envisions each course as a song, the food, and a commentary, the bread. The latter was to illustrate the meaning of the former and allow his reader to appreciate not only the song's beauty, but also their subtle teachings. Among the subjects to be discussed, 2 words given special importance: virtue and love. Love for knowledge there is. As often is the case with Dante, he will do less than promised, and at the same time much more. Less because, as is well known, he interrupted the Convivio after writing the commentary to the 3rd song, leaving it unfinished. Much more because within the first 4 books, he not only investigates moral philosophy, but also embarks on a veritable tour de force on linguistics, politics, cosmology, and of course, politics. Moreover, by linking his role as master of ceremonies with a banquet of knowledge with Aristotle's eudaimonia, the poet connects his claim for the dignity of the Italian vernacular with a vast body of literature on the meaning and pursuit of happiness, a genre that was not only the prerogative of philosophers and theologians, but also one of the most powerful embodiments of high culture. Indeed, few matters unleashed the Western imagination the way happiness did, from Plato to Aristotle, from Albertus Magnus and Thomas Aquinas to Kant, Hegel, Nietzsche. Some of the greatest thinkers of all time took on the challenge of exploring the significance of happiness and how to attain it. How does one discern happiness? Does the path to happiness coincide with those to power, wealth, pleasure, or love? Are virtue and faith necessary to achieve happiness? Is there a conflict between the individual fulfillment, and the pursuit of the common good? Such questions have shaped Western culture for more than 2,000 years, breaking the boundaries and establishing unsuspected links between poetry, moral philosophy, theology, and political doctrine. These are also the very same questions that the Convivio brings into focus and energize the entire arc of Dante's intellectual trajectory. We don't have the time today to either look into how Aristotle articulates the triangulation, happiness, virtue, knowledge, or how Dante builds on it. Even less so, how it is developed in the De Monarchia and the Divine Comedy, Dante's masterpiece. What I would like to do is to draw your attention to at least one feature of Dante's discourse on happiness in the Convivio. That is, it is one and the same with his reflection on the dissemination of knowledge and its profound political significance. In Dante's vision, in fact, if happiness and knowledge are indeed connected, absolutely central is the question of who has access to such knowledge. At the heart of the Convivio, it is the ambition to open knowledge to a readership far more vast than the intellectual elite that studied and taught in prestigious universities such as Paris, Bologna, and Padua. In fact, the Convivio begins with a discussion on the obstacles that prevent many from acquiring the precious knowledge that philosophy grants, the food that they naturally crave. Right away, the discussion draws the reader out of the classroom, so to speak. For instance, in the catalog of these obstacles, he names, quote, the handicap that derives from the place where a person is born and bred, which at times will not only lack a university, but be far removed from the company of educated persons, end quote. Ignorance is not always a matter of choice and can indeed be the result of lack of opportunity. Quite strikingly, and perhaps surprising to us today, is that the poet's discussion on access to knowledge extends to matter of gender. In fact, Dante launches a sanguine attack on the literati, claiming that these disenchanted intellectuals, entrusted by a corrupted society with the very treasures of wisdom that the poet wishes to give freely, instead trade them for money and privilege. Dante submits that among these waiting for the service that the Convivio intends to provide are not only men, but also women. They, he argues, indeed hold the qualities necessary to appreciate such wisdom, although they don't have yet literatura, knowledge of Latin, there is. Quote, and these noble persons comprise not only men, but women, of which there are many in this language who know only the vernacular and are not learned, end quote. In their apparent simplicity, these few lines have implications that are monumental. If philosophy is instrumental to the quest for happiness, by granting women passport to a readership from which they had been previously barred, Dante elects them as active partners into the most vital and defining of human pursuits. And while he freely helps himself to both words and intelligence of Aristotle and his medieval commentators, such as Thomas Aquinas and Albertus Magnus, Dante incorporates a series of concerns to which they were irreparably deaf. Dante sketches here a portrait of women craving for and equipped to have an understanding of poetry, moral philosophy, politics, physics, and more. As he makes abundantly clear in Book 4, the kind of nobility to which the poet refers in the passage above is not something guaranteed by family lineage, whether combined with wealth or not, or even gender. It is instead, quote, a seed of happiness, end quote, that every day each of us chooses to cultivate or neglect. In Dante's view, in order for this choice to be more than just an academic conceit, one needs at least a minimum set of intellectual coordinates. For instance, an understanding of the nature of virtue and the strategic role it plays in the pursuit of happiness. In the Convivio, Dante claims to provide just such indispensable equipment. In point of fact, what he offers to his readers is much more. It is a space for critical thought. Thank you.